In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Trilogy Outdoors.
Well, hello, y'all, and welcome to Trilogy Outdoors Podcast, another edition where we're going to be talking fins, fur, and feathers today. And, you know, we're going to really discuss some weird fur today. But we are going to talk about shrimp baiting. And in South Carolina, it is a fall tradition to get out and enjoy pretty much from Georgetown and south, getting out and making those nasty bait balls, setting your poles up and having a great time with good friends and stocking the freezer. And this season opened up on Friday the 13th and will run for 60 days. And it can be a great time, again, to get out and make some memories. And really, you can load the freezer and save a lot of money and have a good time. With that being said, on our radio show, Trilogy Outdoors Radio, we discussed that, as well as Monkey Island here in South Carolina. And I made the promise that I would not give away the name of the island just out of, I don't know why I did it. But I'm not going to say the name of the island. It's really weird to imagine an island of over 4,000 monkeys here in South Carolina. And our good friends, Captain Jason and Captain Chris from Trilogy Outdoors Radio Show, were fishing a redfish tournament down in Beaufort area and had no idea about this island. And of course, they went fishing into a creek near it and got right beside it. And the rest is a story of the ages. We're going to let them share that. And then it's going to be followed by some a great panel of Captain Fred, Captain Jason, Captain Tony the Bassmaster, and Captain Chris talking about shrimp baiting and going over everything from the nets, where to do it, how to do it, the state regulations, and everything else. And I think it's a great show. We're going to do that and share that with you. The Senator's been really busy. It's election year. Vote Goldfinch. Vote for Stephen Goldfinch. He is running uncontested, but we still got to get out and vote. So let's get out and vote for someone that cares about the resources and cares about the state the way that Stephen does. And let's get him elected again in November. We'll leave the rest of that election stuff away for right now. But let's go to the show. All right, folks, you're listening to Trilogy Outdoors Radio Show. We're coming to you through that Sparks Toyota Tundra studio where the dealer's always in.
And by Marshall's Marine of Lake City and Georgetown. Every day is a boat show.
Every day.
Hey, Boats.
Don't forget our good buddies at Monarch Roofing, Express Electrical Services, and speaking of Monarch Roofing, did anybody happen to see Bert's tennis shoes on Facebook?
They were hot.
Dude, I got to see them in person. Those things were bad as bone. And I'm telling you, that dude had the biggest smile on his face. But anyway, let's talk real quick. All right, so a lot of people don't have any idea, and you two are a perfect example of that down south in South Carolina, there is Monkey Island. It's got a technical name. We won't give it out in honor of Fred over here. We won't give the name of the island out, but it is, I mean, just tell us how you found it. I mean, y'all had no idea it was there.
None.
And you're fishing a creek right beside it.
Yeah, I mean.
I got to hear this story.
Chris, go.
Well, y'all have already said that y'all are not in good shape.
Yeah, no. We're freezing. We're cold. Like I said, I ate half of a king size Milky Way all day. So we get this waypoint that was sent to us. Have no description, no nothing, and it's basically this. It says if you get desperate, go here. So we're desperate at that point, trying to find a slot fish. So we go there, and there's signs everywhere. We're just going. Whip out the rods, start casting. Well, next thing you know, I look up and I see the tree shaking, and I'm like, oh, it's an eagle or a hawk or something. It's a monkey, and it's shaking the tree. And so I wait. I didn't say anything. I'm just trying to process it because there shouldn't be one there. So I keep looking around. There's another one. So finally, I'm like, Jason, there's a monkey in that tree. And he looks at me like I got 5 eyes.
I mean, we were tired at that point. And we were cold.
I've already made 2,000 casts.
And Chris's brain is not operating.
Yeah, no, my face is blue. I can't feel my fingers.
And the best part about it is when I looked, I didn't see them because they came out initially, but then they retracted. So I look and I'm like, I don't see any monkeys. And Chris is like, check out this tree that looks like it was struck by lightning. And I look at the tree and I look at Chris and I'm thinking, I didn't say it out loud. I'm thinking he's lost it. Like this is the beginning of the end. Like
I'm watching this in person.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's like you said, you see the tree shake, and all I saw was like the butt of a monkey. And I'm like, what is that?
That's what it was.
And then you look on the ground, and it was like stormtroopers, like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And I'm like, am I losing it? Like, is something's wrong. Like,
this doesn't compute.
And we're in an island.
You're on an island in South Carolina.
In the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
I mean, we're 10, 15 miles from the last people we saw. We were swinging for the fence thinking, hey, let's make a really long run and find fish that people aren't messing with. Boy, we found something that people weren't messing with.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely mind-boggling that there's an island
in South
Carolina that is covered up with thousands. And I heard, did I hear 14,000 possibly?
4,000.
4,000. Okay, I knew it was a big number. That's still a lot.
It is. It's a lot.
I mean, we're talking about monkeys that could do damage.
And there's 2 islands. There's one here and there's one in Florida.
Okay, there is one in Florida.
So back in I did the research.
So you did the research because you were like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. So like 1979, 1980, they all came from Puerto Rico. So Florida and South Carolina were the 2 states that stepped up. The island is owned by DNR.
Right.
And they started out 1,400 monkeys is what they transported from Puerto Rico. And they're just free range. They're
make it on your own.
Yeah. And they survive out there.
And they will eat you if they get an opportunity.
I believe that they would. I mean, and then talking to people like, there's other people that know about the island. There's other people that fish it, blah, 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 the locals and all that. And they will jump in the water. So that was our biggest thing. I'm like, Jason, leave that motor running. I mean, one of those things starts swimming at us, like we're going to run it over or something. That thing is not getting in the boat.
All I could see in my head is there's like FIFA soccer games where like they storm the field and it's like, what would we do? I mean, just
like we had our phones ready. Like I was waiting for one to swim over.
Yeah.
Like,
y'all are processing. How do I handle this?
Yeah, like what do I do? I have nothing to protect myself.
I will tell you, Chris's cast ratio was phenomenal. He got there and it stopped.
I was amazed. Like I just sat there watching him.
I would be too. I've wanted to go down there ever since I learned about that island. I have wanted to go down there and take the kids and just go down there and just park outside of it and watch them.
It's beautiful. And that's what I did because the stuffed animals that our kids had growing up and all that, like there's literally baby ones like that.
These are rhesus monkeys. Is that how you say it? Rhesus. RHESUS. Rhesus monkeys. By the way, they're not. I mean, obviously they're monkeys.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Are they what? Probably about 1.5 feet, 2 foot.
There are some
all
that are
different
like
sizes.
There's some bigger ones there.
Really?
The big males. I mean, they'll stand up 4 feet in the air.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah, don't get me near there.
The babies, like you said, the babies were the size of your hand. They were like the cutest
So
thing
I've
ever.
watched Attack of the Planet Apes and
exactly.
everyone, and I'm like, no way, dude. Those things are smart. They're going to figure out how to come get you.
Well, the thing about it is down there, as close as Beaufort is to us, that island is more like a jungle than anything we've got here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the palmetto miners and stuff all close to the ground and the trees and all that. It's like a jungle.
It is
actually.
very thick.
Yeah. I mean, it's thick. And when Danny and I were kids, man, we'd paddle over to an island close to us and go all over that island. But, it is thick vegetation What they're eating, don't know.
All right, so but
They're very healthy. I'll tell you that. They're very well taken care of.
I bet there's not much of a fiddler population up on that bank
Yeah,
right
probably
there.
not.
all right, I'm not picking on my people because I'm proud to be from Lake City. But you just take a good old boy from Lake City that says, "Hey, honey, we're gonna go down to Beaufort and we're going fishing down there." They go down there. They're going through this creek and they come up and. Old boy's had him a couple bush lights, and he says, "Man, let's go over to this island." I mean, how have we not heard plenty of stories about that? Are there that many signs?
Well, I'll tell you this now. When we're saying island, this island is
Big.
huge.
It's like 300 acres.
Now, there's a feeder creek that is very winding. What would you say? Mile and a half?
Yeah.
Mile and a half. Grass, Georgetown. Grass is over your head. So you have to go back in this feeder creek, and the feeder creek doesn't technically dead in there, but if you were in all the main channels and you were going up normal creeks, you'd never see it. It is literally tucked back. The only way to describe it here would be like, it would be like the center of like Huntington's Drunken Jack Island with a wall around it to where you can't see in it unless you just stumbled upon a feeder creek.
I would love to send fly the drone up over it, and
You probably get shot
watch.
down. There's a lot of signs.
Yeah.
There's enough prosecution signs. I would be curious.
There's buildings on it, and I mean there was.
Okay, so here we go. There's buildings on it. There's a dock.
Yep, there's a dock. They had
There's
a
a
floating
boat,
barge.
barge.
Yeah, there's like a 28 Parker with twin engines. Like
So wait a
there's
minute.
people there.
There's people on this island.
There has to be.
Yes, there was a house with a generator running. I'm assuming that there's like a somebody there to watch after 'em.
Biologist,
Biologists, maybe they're studying.
caretaker. I don't know.
Or
what you wanna call
it could be security too. I mean,
Yeah, I mean there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah, you couldn't.
they were watching y'all.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they were.
I was just amazed. I'm like
You not the
I thought I was
monkey.
at Wakatee Zoo or something.
The
That is
monkeys.
so cool.
The monkeys aren't the only thing watching you.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
we knew.
Not at all.
You could tell. Like
Like I said, I didn't make a cast.
there was so much noise and activity going on, and like at some point it just went all quiet.
I mean,
Like,
do they make noises, sounds?
To go there at night,
Oh,
I can
God.
only imagine.
they scream like hyenas. Like we were casting.
I've got a.
We were casting, and like if you got close to the bank,
Oh, yeah.
they were like, "Ee!" like I swear they were like rooting us on.
They were actually
that
trying
is
to run
so
you
cool.
off.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure they were.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I swear,
It was. That was the highlight of my trip.
man.
We'll never forget that. I'll tell
No.
you. That's one of those things.
I really thought y'all both knew about it. This part makes
No
it so
idea.
much better because Mr. Even keel just one. I can just imagine.
Not that day.
I can imagine his mind when Jason.
Yeah.
There's a monkey on that tree.
I had no idea.
Dude.
And I'm taking
I mean-
pictures like, oh my God, like you'll never guess what I'm standing in front of.
And then we send it to our friends. I'm like, yeah, I'm like shooting a video, and they're like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like they immediately question, like, "You guys, did you eat today?"
Yeah.
My
I'm
friend
getting
was,
questions from my wife, like, "Are you sure you're good?" I'm like,
I shared the pictures on our Facebook page last weekend. I'm pretty sure because I put the picture. I thought, but I will share those pictures because
and people are like, they still don't believe it. They're like,
Jason sent me one, and my reply was, "Those monkeys are mean."
that's what I was figuring. So you
gotta
say
be
they got in the
careful.
water? Did y'all ever see them get
they
in the
did
water?
not get in the water. They would come down to the water's edge because there's a bunch of fallen trees right there. It's a very steep bank on the island. But they would come all the way down there and they just stare you down.
yeah.
Start jumping and all that.
the
You know how the
guards.
top of oak trees are very dense? Like the big ones were at the top of the trees, like shaking.
Shaking them.
Clearly, they were not happy with
And
it.
Chris was saying that they would shake when y'all cast, like they were cheering for you.
It sure seemed that way, but like Fred said, they were probably trying to get us out of
Yeah,
it.
they're
So I don't
chasing us
know.
off.
There's a fine line between happy and mad.
Yeah.
I don't know which one they were.
I wouldn't want them mad.
When animals go bad.
I've been watching Chimp Crazy.
Yeah.
By the way, if you have not seen that show yet, that is a amazing show. There's some crazy people out there. You got to go. Jason, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Jason's out of here. And I'll tell you what, Jenna, why don't we crank up another break because I know we ran real long in that last segment, and then we're going to switch up and we're going to talk shrimping. It is shrimp baiting season started yesterday. An incredible time of the year in South Carolina. A lot of people like to stock those freezers. And while some would argue that sometimes the amount of work that you put in and money that you spend is far supersedes where you could actually buy your shrimp from your local seafood dealer, but I think it's more fun to go shrimping.
Well, as long as you're having fun at it, go.
Go, exactly. So,
As long as it's not work and it's fun.
yeah, when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to be talking shrimping. And Tony, the Bassmaster, I have been with him multiple times. He is great at it. And we'll get the chef over here, and we'll talk some shrimping. So, Jenna, if you're ready, we'll go to break. This is the Trilogy Outdoors Radio Show here on Gator 107.9. Michelob Ultra and Myrtle Beach Wholesaler, Southern Crown Partners Incorporated, know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Mick Ultra's crisp and refreshing taste in hand. It's important to remember to drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or to designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Michelob Ultra salutes all sober skippers who take the pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water. All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors Radio Show, and coming to you live via the Toyota Tundra Studio, presented by Sparks Toyota, where the dealer's always in.
And by Key West Boats and Marshall Marine up Lake City and Georgetown, where every day is a boat show.
Every day. And our good friends at Monarch Roofing at Express Services, and we have been talking monkeys. And it just amazes me that is here in South Carolina. But now joining us is the one and only private chef to the stars, Chef Richard.
If this was the first time I was on the show and I heard you guys talking about monkeys, I'd have turned my car around.
I know. It's amazing. Pull that mic in a little closer to your mouth. Sorry. Make sure I get you on there. There we go. It's amazing that is here in South Carolina. I just can't believe it. But we are now going to talk about the topic of the day, and that is again shrimp season and the shrimp baiting season that we are afforded here in South Carolina. I guess that's what you would call it. I mean, we're fortunate enough to get to enjoy one, correct? And it cranked up yesterday. It always cranks up the first Friday before the 15th. That's right.
Yeah, it's always around the mid-month.
Yep. And so that started yesterday, and I've not had anybody had any. I mean, of course, that wind blowing yesterday. I mean, if somebody went,
somebody went.
Somebody went.
Somebody went. I promise you.
Well, and the thing about it, it's not near as popular as it used to be.
No.
It used to be unbelievable.
Well, why do you think that is?
Because there's work involved.
It's a passion. It's something you got to enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean.
Yeah, if it's not fun, then don't do it.
Yeah, it's you have to enjoy it, because once these boys start running channel nets and stuff like that, and they start catching shrimp, the price of shrimp will come down quite a bit if you just buy it from off the boats and stuff like that.
Right.
So
by the time you do the boat,
you go pay $4 a pound for shrimp versus going and spending $150 to go catch them yourself.
And how many hours?
well, then you got the boat, you got the nets, you got the poles, you got the bait, you got the this, you got the that.
Yeah,
it's not like you're getting free shrimp, because
No.
you're going to spend money, but it can be. The thing is, it needs to be like fishing. It needs to be fun. You go with your buddies and have a good time doing it. And then if it's not that, then go fishing or do something else.
And that's exactly why I do it. This is the first year since it started that I was old enough to do it, that I know of, that I did not get my shrimp baiting license.
Well, I'll give
and trust me, I may have them by next Wednesday. I don't know yet.
Well, I'll give you all a little background that I know, and this is what I understand. It can be fact-checked to find out if I'm right, but it started in Beaufort.
I was going to say it started in the Low Country.
All right, and there was some guys from Florida came up and set up all these poles and started baiting shrimp. And this was a big operation. I mean, they had miles of poles set up, and they would go every night. We were discussing earlier, just when we're off the air, that nobody in Beaufort shrimps during daytime. Everybody goes at night. Well, these guys would go out at night and work all these poles, and they had refrigerated semis sitting at the ramp. That's how many they were catching out of Beaufort. So eventually I got found out, and I would guess DNR put an end to that program.
Yeah.
These guys had no license, no permits of any kind. Shrimp boats have their line of demarcation. They can't come inside and all that. So anyway, obviously it was illegal to be doing what they were doing. Well, when my brother Danny and I started, there were no regulations on it. We'd
Right.
go cut cane poles and stick them up and leave them and come back. Every time we went shrimping that year, we had cane poles set up and we would go. And there was no limit. And then it ended up when the regulations hit and the word got out, Beaufort turned into it was not fun anymore. There was 3 deep coming off every bank. In other words, there was guys set up against the grass, off the grass, and off the grass, and then down the line it just got to be where a peaceful evening, going shrimping, throwing the net,
Right.
turned into a zoo. There was guys that had catch a limit, set it on the bridge pile, go back, and get another cooler full. I mean, it turned into it was crazy. I mean, it was really crazy.
Let's talk real quick about the poles because a lot of people listening obviously might not have any idea. And Shep, same way, he said he went and visited with Jay Beige to find out more about it. But the poles, which a lot of people might be thinking, like, what are you using a pole to catch shrimp for? The poles are there to mark your bait ball.
A reference.
It's a
point.
reference point because
It's a reference point, and it is a license indicator.
exactly that's the other thing. The license has to be attached on that pole.
And you can only have 10.
Individual that belongs to that license or the license that belongs to the individual has to be on the boat.
Correct. You can't borrow it.
Right. You cannot borrow somebody's poles and go.
It'd be like borrowing somebody's hunting license.
Yes,
You
and
can't.
going. It's the same exact thing. But those poles make a big difference. And I'll tell you, this is where between shrimping with Tony, between shrimping with Jay, and between shrimping with my brother, there is a lot of technical stuff that go into it because if you go out there for the first time, you got your 10 poles in the boat, and you go, I'm driving through Muddy Bay. Let's just say Muddy Bay. I look behind the boat. I see shrimp popping everywhere. Well, of course, you're in a good area.
Yeah.
Let's line them up. Let's get the poles out, blah, blah, blah. So you just go put your poles in. Well, then you didn't take into account the current. You didn't take into account the wind. And it ends up being a gom.
Because when you approach that pole to throw that net, you might want to have the breeze and the current on your nose of your boat.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's going to blow you over your bait every time.
and
you can't back off fast enough.
Exactly. And I've been with Jay and Jay and Tony are on the same page. They like to make their stuff. Typically, they'll be prepared when they go. They've got their bait balls made and everything. And real quick, let's give a shout out all of our partners, and that is Palmetto State Armory of Myrtle Beach, Perry's, Inlet Rocks Bait and Tackle, Pawleys Island Outdoors, and Irby Street Sporting Goods have all your necessities that you need, your nets, your bait. I know that the poles, they do have poles at Palmetto State Armory of Myrtle Beach. They do have poles at Pawleys Island Outdoors. You can do that, or you can make your own, and we'll talk, give you some great ideas on how to make them yourself. But you can find all of that in those locations. But I can tell you from going and being in the boat and having things set up the right way,
Matters.
even if you've got to throw 10 times, when I say 10 runs, being 10 times through your poles to get your limit,
100 casts.
it makes it so much better when you've got the wind and everything set up.
Yes.
I like to set up down current of mine. A lot of people like to set up up current.
I don't.
Well, when you see people do that, they're playing the wind, they're playing the tide, but you don't seem to pull the balls with the net as bad when you're doing it with the current to your back as you do if you're pulling up current and letting it wash you back. But it's a lot easier if you do it letting it wash you back because
Well, yeah, because the driver's job gets a little bit easier because that's an important position in shrimp bait.
100%. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing to put you where you need to be to throw the net to hit these 4-inch pancakes, as
Right.
we call them.
Yep.
And it's also some guys like to throw off one side of the boat or the other. They prefer.
Yep.
In other words, if you're right-handed, you probably prefer to throw off the starboard bow versus off the other side. To me, I don't care, but it's easier. It's just easier for the guy to manage the net off one side or the other. So the driver needs to be getting you in position to where you can make the best cast you can.
All right, now here's a question that that was brought up to me last year or year before. Winston and I were talking about it. Have you ever found a situation where you use your marker, you set out double bait balls, and I say that in a sense, you put one to maybe to the south of the pole, one to the north of the pole, or however, and have two people on the bow throwing the net. Have y'all ever done that?
I've had two people throwing at the balls before.
At the one ball?
No.
Okay.
I never use one ball. I'll put out a pole, I'll put out a test ball, and if the shrimp's there, then I'll go back and I'll
Bait them all.
I'll throw 5 or 6 on each pole. That way, if I have a problem with my boat driver, the wind, or whatever, get out of position, I don't have.
You've got a margin for error.
Yes, I've got a 10-foot area basically I can hit with the net that I'm going to get shrimp.
Well, let's talk about placement of the bait. So,
Placement of the bait is huge.
yeah,
That makes the difference.
everybody tends to crowd the pole.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're throwing a 6-foot net. So if you're throwing a 6-foot net, you got a 12-foot spread, but you're going to put your bait 3 foot from the pole. It doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
It'll work you to death. You'll be so mad from hitting the pole with your net.
Right.
And it wrapping around it and just completely blowing it out because the net's going to wad up and you can drag it across your bait balls. It's going to pull them back.
It's going to move it.
It's going to pull it back 10 foot from where you originally threw it, and you're going to wonder why. Well, there's no shrimp here. Well, they all back there under your boat because you done moved the bait ball 15 foot. So.
Yeah, so if you are throwing a 6-foot net, basically you need to be 6 foot off the pole. And the pole is just a reference. Y'all got to
That's it. That's
it's just a stake. So it lets you know where you place the ball. So you can set these up in 100 yards.
Yep.
So they're 10 yards apart.
10 yards apart.
It gives you enough time to throw the net, clean the net, and then the driver getting you in position for the next one. There's enough time if you're 10 yards apart.
Well, you get into a rhythm with it, and your driver can't rush you. You and your driver need to be on the same page to where you're doing a fluid motion.
Right. He can hold off until you get reset and then ease you up.
And on the pole thing, I found that when people struggle with that, and most people I take shrimping for the first time, I don't bait the poles. I set my poles, and I bait between the poles.
Okay.
Dead center between the poles. That way they can throw at it. I don't have to worry about them hitting the pole with the net.
Messing with in other words, the pole's out of the game.
Yeah, I'm not using the
But
pole.
you're still using it because it is a reference.
It's
yes.
a reference, but
It's 5 yards from each pole.
I'm
Yep.
putting my bait balls in between them, so when we pull up, pretty much anywhere you hit in that area, you're going to hit a bait ball, and you're not going to hit the pole. If you hit the pole, you've messed up altogether. You've thrown in the wrong place. But it's preference, 100% preference of how you want to set your balls and work your nets and your driver.
I'll tell you
whatever comes.
another thing I think there's preference is, I know that Bait Binder has come up with a really easy, simple, one bag, mix it with water and go.
Yep.
And here we go with preferences because I know Tony and Jay. Well, I'll speak for Jay Bache because I do know what Tony likes, but it may not be his favorite. But Jay Bache likes to buy the meal, and he likes to buy the clay, and separate them and make it. You shrimp before. Let him steal your mic back for a minute, and then we'll give it back to you, Chris. I know you did make reference that you've shrimp before too.
Yeah.
Did you use the pre-made stuff, or did you make it all?
I've done it both ways because we used to source out, getting good potter's clay, good cornmeal, and we would use, Manhattan oil, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, we've done it that way. I've gone to where I've just got a bag of bait binder and used the seawater and mixed it in the bucket. So they both work. One does work a little bit better. I feel that you put the time and effort to source out the right materials, you're going to have better luck.
They last longer.
They do.
Have you ever done the freezing them?
No, most of ours we did the night before.
It works. It's awesome.
Well,
it does.
Guys, there's different recipes on how to mix this stuff.
Yep.
And I've tried them all, believe me. And I ended up with a real simple deal with a sack of flour. So you buy the cheapest.
See, this is the first time I've heard flour.
Well, buy the cheapest sack of flour that you can buy. a 5 pound bag.
Is it all purpose or sell price?
It is all purpose.
Okay, yeah, because after last weekend, my cooking, my baking with the kids, there's a difference.
Well, Chef was explaining to me, he made these pierogies for us, right?
Yep.
And he's got this special flour, which was, what'd you call it, A grade? What?
A-grade flour.
No, or
There we go, switching back. Sorry.
no, I'm talking about flour and shrimping, but you were talking about flour when cooking.
Right.
For your pierogies, you were very particular about what flour you used.
Right. It's actually a low gluten flour.
Low gluten.
Right. So this was a Polish brand, but if you were going to be buying something to make that, you would use cake flour.
Right.
Because it's low gluten. It sounds to me, and this is the first time I'm hearing this.
Me too.
What you explained, Fred. So this is very interesting. So if that works, and I don't doubt that it does, you want a higher gluten flour.
Right, yeah, I wanted all the gluten I can get.
Right. So it would be all-purpose and above. You know, like if you were going to, like pizza flour is a higher gluten flour because it's tougher.
All right, so Chef recommends on shrimp baiting on your recipe
High gluten.
to use pizza flour.
Pizza flour.
Not AP.
Double zero, but it'll cost you a fortune.
And if you really scrape it and need a pinch, you can just go buy you a thing of Pillsbury Grands and soak them in menhaden oil.
I'll tell you what, I'm loving the fact that we're sitting here talking about a recipe of something that we're going to make
It's funky.
to entice something that we're going to kill so we can use it in our recipe for something to eat.
That's right. So, but
Guaranteed, every time you make bait balls, if you're on the hill, you will have yellow jackets come to them. It just saying.
well,
They're attracted to it.
one thing I liked about the flour was that you got the 5 pound sack of flour, and then the meal was a half of that bag.
Right.
So you used the bag to, so it was 2 to 1. That's the same. It's like cooking rice. Right?
Yeah.
It's 2 to 1.
Yep.
I never really done mine that thick. I would literally use like a 32-ounce cup like this to mix my bait balls with.
Well, and
But, I
then-
mean, it's preference. I know people just like you said, they would go half and half. They just dump half their
Right,
meal in
yeah.
there. But it's really strong.
Yeah, and it's expensive to boot. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the meal's
The
expensive.
meal's the expensive part.
Yeah, so, but I would take half of that bag, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, stir it up, dry ingredients, Chef, just like you're making biscuits, buddy. So you mix it up until everything's blended good, and then we would do this on the boat out there because it was easy, and it's also not messy. And just add water in slow because you don't want it wet.
You will never, ever, ever be able to say them words and convince Mike Brady.
Nope. And I was going to tell that
it is
story.
not-
Y'all got
Clay.
Y'all got
it is not messy.
All right, so real quick, we'll tell this story since we're right here. I don't want to forget it. But so we would we go. Mike Brady decides we get off work early, and he said, "I want to go shrimping." So we decide we're going shrimping.
He wanted to go watch it.
He wanted to go watching. Hang on, boat driving and beer drinking. So we go and we head our way down to Muddy Bay where we had heard some shrimp were caught.
Right there, pumpkin seed.
Yeah, we go to Pumpkin Seed Island,
Okay.
and we pull up and put the boat right on Pumpkin Seed.
A 15-mile-an-hour northeast wind.
Everything's normal.
Well, Mike ain't offered to help one bit with nothing now. Listen, other than driving the boat now. So we and Tony are on the front of the boat, and we get the big tub out.
So you got the anchor out, so that means
We got we're just in the grass.
but the bow's pointing to the northeast.
Oh, exactly. So we get up front, and Tony and I start looking at each other, and we're just laughing. We start putting all our ingredients in, and, Tony's got, I think, boat paddle. We had a boat paddle stirring it up and
Nice.
mixing it up. Well, then came the time where we started patting them out. Well, we would pick them things up, and we start getting them in our hand and start patting them. And everything was blowing right to Mike Brady. I'm telling you, when we got done, Mike didn't even realize it. When we got done, Mike looked like he was
White boy.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
he was the Pillsbury Doughboy, or he was back in the 70s hanging out in Miami at a really good party. But
I told him that when he sold that boat, it still had clay and meal. It was like concrete in the crevices of that boat. He could never wash it out.
now, for all you fish heads that don't know Mike Brady, he does not want anybody to get one over on him. So Unfortunately, well, fortunately for us, it was a lot of fun. We laughed. He didn't.
We caught one shrimp that day.
Oh, and that was my next part. All this work.
Well, you catch 6 more, you can have yourself a shrimp cocktail.
We caught one shrimp. And y'all, we didn't make just one pass. We made multiple passes for one shrimp.
Needless to say, the shrimp was not there.
Yeah, well-
But it was worth $1 million just to see the look on Mike Brady's face when he figured out that he was covered in white flour and
Yep.
dust.
All right, I want to go back to yours. All right, so you're using this flour. How are you? So.
All right, I dumped the 5-pound sack into the bucket.
Yep.
Then I take the meal and fill up that sack halfway, so it's 2 to 1. Put it in, and then I add 3/4 to it. But you don't want it too wet, so you got to go in real slow until you get it. You want it to be wet enough to stick together, but not gushy.
Right.
Okay, it's like recipes.
Yeah.
Don't have too much water.
And is that all that is needed to
Yeah.
attract the shrimp? There's no other kind of like fish oil or
Right.
anything like that?
Oh yes.
Well, everybody's tried to put manhattan oil on. I've done it. I mean, you're talking about stinking up the show, but anyway, I did. That'll make you 30 hamburger steak size patties. Now, Tony and a lot of these guys, I see them with big cannonballs and stuff.
Yep.
I like them a little bit flatter. Chris was
Yep.
was
So do
talking
we.
about this earlier that the round ones tend to move. The ones that you shape like a hamburger patty tend to lay a little bit flatter.
Yep.
But what I found is, now I've got a good bit of bait in that for ratio, but on your last cast you might pick one up. So I know they're durable. They're staying there. They're lasting, and it's got enough meal to keep the show going. But I'll put 3 per pole. Boom, boom, boom. 3 per pole. 6 foot off the pole. Bam, you're ready to go. And it made my life a lot easier shrimping, and was extremely effective. I mean, it worked as good as anything else with a lot less mess and a lot less trouble.
So that does sound easy, and it probably sounds a lot more affordable than buying the bags of fish meal. And the bait binder's not terrible. Honestly, if you break it down and do it the right way, I'm sure you can get plenty out of it. And then when you take and factor in the price of shrimp and the quality of shrimp, if you get the right shrimp, we call them Christmas shrimp, the big ones.
Yeah.
When you get the right shrimp and you start peeling that freezer up and you start looking at the dollar value to dollar value, forget about the time and effort you're putting in. It's worth it.
Right, yeah.
I think just being on the boat with your friends and hanging out and talking junk, and one of you popping heads and the other, or a couple of you popping heads, couple running the net, cleaning the floor up and everything else. It's a great time.
It's
29
got to be
quarts
fun.
headed, 48 quarts head on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over all the regulations when we get closer to the end of this segment. But
It is a lot of fun. Like I said, you have to enjoy it to do it, because
Right.
if you
Why
go
bother?
If you go have a mediocre day, it's really not worth it as far as money wise. But
Well,
if
it's like a $1,000 shotgun to kill a dove.
yeah, is it worth it? I can buy a $300 shotgun.
I mean, it needs to be the fun involved in it, and enjoying what you're doing
the
is what it's all
fun and
about.
fellowship of hanging around, and trust me, it's very rare that you will go shrimping in South Carolina that you won't have company.
Yeah.
And especially if they see you raking in a couple of hundred shrimp on a cast, you will have neighbors that will pull up and
Now there's a limit to how close they can get to you.
Yes.
There is.
there's a
How
mi-
close you can get to other.
I think it's another 100 yards.
Yeah, there's a limit to how close you can get to another shrimper's poles.
One thing about it, guys, is season's just open. The later you go in the year, say mid-October, 4 weeks from now, well, I understand shrimp grow 50% a week. Wow. If he's 2 inches this week, he's 3 inches next week. So anything you're catching now that may be, say, 50 count, 52 a pound, they may be 20 count by end of October.
Yep.
So if you really want to go and get something that's really worth having, opening day's not the time. You're better off to wait to mid-October. The crowd will decrease.
Don't tell anybody. We
Don't
want them
tell-
to go now and get tired and worn out, and then
And with a bunch of little ones,
get your freezer full now.
and then we'll go mid-October, and guess what? You can get some bigger quality, better quality, bigger
Well,
shrimp.
they're better. The water's cooled down a lot by then. And to me, the shrimp are better coming out of cool water. And you were saying a while ago about the night thing. That's typically when we used to go, me and Gene Pluto and Greg and them, we would go at night. That's the only time Gene would go was at night.
Well, the crowd in Buford goes at night. A lot of people in Charleston go at
Charleston's night.
But then in McClellanville, everybody go in the daytime.
All right, so let's talk about that.
That's because everybody's scared of trying to run Casino Creek and Alligator Creek and all that out there and getting on a mud flat that's 8 miles wide that you may stay on for a week.
Better run Horsehead.
One other personal preference part that I think comes in on this, other than the fact that it has to be a half-inch mesh in the net. Let's talk about net sizes and what you prefer. You mentioned a 6-foot net. My brother throws an 8-footer.
Right.
They're religious with the 8-footer. Jay's an 8-footer. Tony's a 6-footer.
Yes.
Tony's a 6-footer. But let's talk about weight. And everybody I know has a shrimp net that they keep separate from. They don't use it for mullet. They don't use it for anything because it's typically going to be a little different. Why is that? What are your preferences in your nets?
Here's the preference on mine.
If you want to get in on this too, you can. Feel free, but
on size of the net.
Yeah, size of net. Let's talk about that.
The size of the net to me, the most important thing is that you open it into a circle. I don't care if it's 4 foot, 6 foot, or 8 foot. I want to see you throw an open net, not a banana.
In other words, shrimp tacos aren't going to work.
And hit the bait.
Yeah. If you need to throw a 5-foot net to be accurate and hit the bait, much better than throwing an 8-foot.
And closing it up.
Yeah, and taco in it.
Plus, you're getting tired and you're struggling and it's not working. I'd rather see you throw a smaller net you can open up every time, hit the spot with it. You're going to be a lot more productive.
And it depends what you're doing, too, because if you're running poles versus depoling, you need a heavier weight, and with the tape
net.
So
yeah.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
Now, that is another thing that a lot of people, you don't have to have a license to go netting for shrimp and depoling. I mean, there are times
you can have a fishing license. All you need.
Fishing license is it, and you can go down there and not use bait.
Yep.
Right.
And load up.
But you still can only have 48 quarts, even if you're free cast.
Right.
I would be willing to say that I have probably caught just as many shrimp free casting, coolers of shrimp, that I have baiting.
I have in Winyaw Bay on drought years.
Yes, sir.
A drought year in Winyaw Bay can be phenomenal.
It can, yeah. I mean, I have pulled up.
And that being the fact that there's less water coming through to wash the shrimp out?
Yes, it's all because it gets salty even up.
Right.
The butt
Way up.
Yeah, way up.
And every now
And they stay.
You'll get those special years where you can go to the mouth of Jones Creek and you can catch 1620s.
Yes.
Free casting. And when they there, you can absolutely mop them up in a minute.
All right, 1620s, we're talking numbers again. 1620 per pound.
That is 16 to 20 shrimp per
pound.
Yep.
And that for those that don't understand, obviously a 35 count or 36 count and a 12 count, you want the 12s. You want the 12s.
Well, the thing
I prefer the 35s.
well, I know. The smaller ones are always better. It's just a lot more heads to pop.
A lot more popping.
Yeah.
If you go fry them, it's a lot more peeling.
And the other thing is, like what Tony likes shrimp Alfredo. So you really, the smaller shrimp are good in that. And then my kids want the bigger shrimp. They love it in boiled. They love boiled shrimp.
Right.
And then you can grill, cook the bigger ones and grill them.
Yeah.
And then, good Lord, whatever Chef could come up with, which is a plethora of things to do with them.
He already has. You
I
look
would
at
say,
your phone.
did you
He
see
done
his
sent us
recipe?
a picture of what he's going to do with our
I
Catch and Cook series.
I'm sorry, because I can't. I try not to bring my phone up because I'm on the.
Devil's Brew.
Oh my God! Yeah, we're in.
Yeah, he sold me.
It looks spicy.
Well, real quick, I want to go over because
I've had it.
we do have some other current events to cover, but I really wanted to go over shrimping. One last thing before I go over the regulations: locations. Like, where do people if you've never done it before and you want to go look for somewhere to go, or you're a fisherman that fishes Georgetown, McClellanville, where you want to be around sand and mud, not oysters. I know that.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So
But what are you looking for? Shallow flats? Are you looking for a semi-deep, a drop-off, or does it matter? Do the shrimp move?
Yes, it varies. It 100% varies. The shrimp move. They don't just sit in one spot and hang out like a bass.
Right.
So I've caught them on every type of bottom surface there is, because you get every type of bottom surface there is from the mouth of No Man's Friend to the lighthouse. You will cover every array of bottom, and they will be in different places at different times.
Well, if you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, they always talk about them moving in mass. You know, and they drop them and they don't catch anything, but all of a sudden they drop. They go deeper.
Fill 'em up.
Or they go deeper, or they go shallower, or north or south, and they adjust, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of it. The shrimp are that same way. They're in a group moving around.
Exactly, and that's why I try to set my poles. When my test poles, I will start with one like maybe 10 foot off of the heel and work my way out. And as you're working it, your poles, you will see which poles are producing more.
And then you move.
You might get out to the 7th pole and really start wearing them out, but you're not catching but 8 or 10 a cast up by the grass. So then I'll take and adjust my poles out of the deeper water and run that line. And
I think I've been with you or I've been with Jay where we even went to where we weren't even throwing on the first 4 or 5. Like it was a waste. You were catching 2 or 3, and then you're out there catching 20 to 30.
Right.
And so we would just go through and hit 3 or 4.
Right.
And then just go back through.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like anything. It's personal preference for the most part, but you're gonna let the shrimp dictate how you do it and where.
do your homework. You talking about places and areas. Whatever you do, be comfortable in your surroundings. You need to be where there's shrimp at, obviously. But as a boater, from a safety side, don't get yourself in a bad position, being somewhere you're not comfortable and you don't know the area, that a storm or something could pop up and cause you and your family any problems to try to get back to the hill, because a lot of people have made that mistake, and for some reason or another.
I think one afternoon you put Shannon through that, didn't you?
Dude, I'm telling you, we did.
Yeah. The other thing is, you don't want your, if you get out there on a falling tide, you don't want your shrimp pole and your baits to be above the water, high and dry.
And I have seen it happen to a lot of people.
Well, in Beaufort back with my brother, every time we shrimp, we were adjacent to deep water there. Because we were talking about it in the tournament, how the creeks are deep.
Yeah.
Well, we would want to go with a low tide an hour or so before dark. We would take the boat and go as skinny as we possibly could get it, run it up, stick the poles. Then we would back off of that, bait out in front of those, and then sit and wait for it to get dark and the tide to come in. So when it got about 2 foot of water off of it, and it came in as it got dark, the shrimp would come up, and then when they got about 3 foot, it's like they came out of the deep water, pushing towards the grass, and we had a toll booth set up, and it could be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
All right, real quick, we're going to go over DNR's regulations, and you can find them on GetOutdoorsSC.com, the app. You can find all that there, but I'm going to go over it real quick. Catch limits. The daily limit for recreational shrimpers is 48 quarts of whole shrimp or 29 quarts of headed shrimp per boat or set of poles, okay? There you go. You hear that, set of poles?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. If you have 2 guys in the boat, you bring 2 sets of poles, you're good. And I've done the research on that. Licenses. Shrimp baiting license is required for shrimping. Resident license costs $25, and this is the part I love right here. You ready? A non-resident license costs $500. All right, $500. Now, I know charter captains that were doing it, and Jay Bates was doing it. He did it, illegal and everything. And the great thing about that is, as long as Jay's licensed, anybody on the boat can be with him and assist. They can assist in any way.
Right.
But somebody on the boat has to be legal and South Carolina licensed.
Gotcha.
Poles. Maximum of 10 poles can be used per boat. All poles must be within 100 linear yards of each other. Now, I thought that there was something about maybe it's only at night, but I thought you had to have a reflective tape on it.
You do, if you're shrimping at night, you do have to have reflective.
Which is nice to have for yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need a rule.
On the
Yeah, so
top
you
of
can find
your
it.
poles as a marker, so other people, navigation can see them and not run into them. But it, like you said, they're on there for my
Yeah,
comfort as well. It's a whole lot easier to find them poles in pitch black dark.
Yeah.
All right, here's something that's a little different. When using bait, a cast net with a mesh smaller than 1/2 inch square or 1 inch stretch measure is prohibited. In other words, 1/2 inch that will stretch to 1 square inch is what you want for throwing over bait, or bigger.
Right.
If you prefer bigger. I know some that use bigger. They don't want the smaller shrimp.
Right. Just let it call them out.
And shrimp caught over bait cannot be sold.
Yep.
We know that's a law. I mean, obviously. Shrimp pots or traps are prohibited. A resident who is, I've already gone over that, but a resident who is not required to have a shrimp baiting license can assist a license holder while shrimping from a boat. Baiting from docks is actually permitted if you have written permission, and the owner has to have the proper license, and they have to have it displayed on the dock. In other words, you have to have your sticker somewhere on the dock. You can bait all around it.
Well, what you can do, and Danny used to, he had a pole stuck there.
Yep.
He just took a pole by the dock.
And just stuck it there. Tony's got a little short pole that at the house that he uses if he's gonna like set a bait in Merle's Inlet, like looking for shrimp.
Right.
He's got a pole that's they'll put a tag on.
I've got a little 3-foot pole with my tag on it. I'll just take it and throw it in the boat. When I go out there, I'll take 4 or 5 bait balls. If I know I'm going to need shrimp or trout fishing or whatever,
yeah.
Yep.
I'll stick that one pole in. I'll throw my bait balls out, and I'll catch all my bait. And
There you go.
Well, you can stop by any of our wonderful outfitters and find the DNR handbook regulations if you want to get it, pick it up.
Oh,
and
one more
look at
thing. I believe that you're only allowed one limit in your possession on a coastal highway in South Carolina.
I believe you're correct, but I
Like on Highway 17.
all right, I think you're right, but I think that there's a different, because you got to think about all the people that camp, that go camping
Right, and see, you can't have 2 limits. I don't think.
in possession.
Correct.
And
No, in other words, if you went to McClellanville and you camped, we went out today and we called a limit. And then you went out the next day and you called a limit. Now you got 2 limits in your possession.
Yep. How can you prove that you caught those in 2 different days? You can't.
So
therefore,
don't have 2 limits in your possession on a coastal highway.
We used to do it, so I don't know.
yeah, and see,
Timestamp?
Winston and Mike do it. They go camping. Like,
Timestamp on your phone, maybe.
I don't know, but
that's a tough one.
yeah, that one's going to get you a ticket, and then you can go tell the judge what's going on, and maybe he'll let you go. But that's going to get you a ticket.
Yeah, I don't know.
That because I know so many people. Buck Hall. I'm just going to say Buck Hall, a great place. They go camping. You're right there. You can go shrimping. You can come back and have a great time and party with
That would be a good
the
question.
rest of the crowd. That's a great question.
if you
for
want to
Tommy.
walk a little ways and get some exercise and have some company, then go to Buck Hall.
Yeah. Right now, I can't imagine, dude.
Yeah,
You'd be
it's-
parking like way up at the top.
Wait to
17.
mid-October.
It is
Yep.
sold out.
It is.
Yeah, the campground is sold out.
Go
The
figure.
best advice
Good
I
luck
can give
at it.
you is wait to mid-October.
I agree. I think that's a great piece of advice. And again, folks, remember,
You got to mid-November.
you got lots of areas with possibilities for shrimp in here. I mean, everybody talks about getting overcrowded and everything else. I've been to the Cowpens area. I've been to Bulls Bay. I've been to Muddy Bay. And there's tons of stuff in between that. And there's plenty of room.
Yep.
And, but real quick, we do have a lot of other stuff to cover. And thank you guys so much for chiming in on
5
that.
minutes.
Yeah, I know we had a lot of people that were listening in.
I think you're only allowed up to 1 inch in diameter on your poles.
Oh yeah, size wise. Well, it's not okay. That's not coming up. This looks like a Clip Notes version of the
Right.
rules, so I'm sure there's others. All right, folks. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show, and you can always catch Trilogy Outdoors Radio Show every Saturday morning on the Gator 107.9 here in the Grand Strand, or you can go to iHeartMedia or Gator 1079.com and click live and listen wherever you are from 8 to 10 every Saturday morning. Great panels, professionals, and incredible guests, and we keep you up to date with everything that's happening locally, dealing with fins, fur, and feathers here in the Grand Strand area and surrounding areas, and hope you enjoy it. But remember, you can always visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com or pick up your magazine this month, or Trilogy Outdoors Magazine. But we are here talking fins, fur, and feathers every week on Trilogy Outdoors Podcast.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.